Alright guys, this is my second video for Ghost of Tsushima. It's again the very beginning of the game. This time I'm not going to talk about the combat system in any details. That's gonna be for another time. But I'm gonna talk about the visual style and the overall story and cinematics. Okay, so in this regard, the game is awesome in my opinion. I don't have any complaints except for only one, and this is a thing that is probably better when you switch the language, the voice language in English. I still don't know, but I don't plan to play this game with English audio. It's just unnatural for me in many ways. I also speak Japanese. I'm not bragging or anything. I'm a translator for many years, but just on pure principle, I don't play Japanese video games with English audio. But I have to say, guys, that although the scenes are awesome, the cinematics are great, like the generals and the battles and the camera movement and the character introductions, like this Mongol general that we have here after the Japanese forces lost the battle for the beach. Um, the facial expressions are great, but the voiceovers move in a very unnatural way compared to the movement of the mouth of the characters. I don't know if you will be able to discern and see what I'm talking about here, but like the syncing between the lines and the mouth movements is very bad in my opinion, and I'll have to try and see how it is in English, but when you play it with the Japanese audio, as I think you should, it's really not that great. It's probably one of the worst examples of this I have seen in video games for quite a while. It's not something that bothers me in any serious way compared to the overall presentation of the game, but I think it's something that might influence your experience if you're someone who just dives very deep into the story and likes to watch scenes multiple times or something like that. So this is something to keep in mind. But the thing that I like about the pacing of the story and how the characters are presented is that yeah, so this happened. It's the way how the Mongol characters are presented as the exact opposite of the noble Japanese samurai. In the very beginning, okay, they don't fight with the cult of the warrior or uh, any of the Bushi traditions or any of the honorable one-on-one fights. You saw as this general just burned one of the samurais in the previous video that I showed you. He just burned him and he challenged him to a combat, but he just got burned without any like regard for the honorable one-on-one fight or the outcome or whatever. He just burned him. That was something that is going to happen in the next parts of the game also, and Jin Sakai is going to realize that fighting in a war with 1v1 duel mindset is just a bad idea, and this is something that I think is a little bit strange in the game because historically the Japanese warriors were able to like distinguish between those two situations. Usually, when you fight with the katana, the katana is usually not a war weapon. It's a side weapon. The main weapon when you engage from distance is, of course, the spear. But in these one-on-one situations, yes, you can use the sword, and there are some very skillful warriors there, obviously. But when you're moving as a unit, like attacking 20 people attacking with just katana against like shields and spears and stuff like that is just not advisable. And here in this portion of the game we have actually the stealthy part of the gameplay. I have to say that Jin moves very fast when he's crouching. This is uh, something that you're going to notice if you have played The Last of Us. There, the character moves very slowly compared to Jin in this game when he's crouching, and also when he's uh, like moving in below buildings, he's also moving very fast. So you're not going to just wait for him to get from one point to the next. He's moving very well, and unless you move directly into the field of vision of the Mongols, you're not going to be seen, and you're going to be able to navigate in between the different hiding places. I think without any serious problems. So here, Jin actually meets this woman called Yuna. Uh, she's just begging for her life here, and she's saying that he can get rice from that place over there. And he didn't kill her here, but what he's going to find out is that Yuna is not that defenseless or helpless as uh, he thought she was, and now she backstabbed him and killed him here. Jin is seriously impressed by this, and now she's going to help him, and he needs to retrieve back his katana in order to be able to fight and defend himself and just move to a safer spot from which he can organize the defense of the island better. And as you can see here in these scenes, the character moves very well and very fast, even when he's crouching, like you can see here. I don't know if you can determine that by looking at this, but yeah, he actually moves very fast, and the opponents are moving in a kind of like a normal speed. So when you're trying to sneak up in behind the opponents, it's not going to be very difficult for you compared to other games like The Last of Us 2, like I mentioned earlier. And here he's going to move beneath this building, and again, as you can see, he moves very fast, and that's a good thing. I like when you have a static part of a gameplay in a game like this, to be able to finish it quickly, and in order to do that, your characters need to be able to move a little bit faster compared to the sluggish way that the main characters move in other games. So here Yuna recognizes who Jin actually is, and they're trying to create some kind of plan to move forward. Jin wants to fight his uncle, of course, because he still doesn't know what happened to him. But he's a little bit too hasty and too jumpy, and Yuna is advising him to hold his horses a little bit. And in these scenes, you can probably see the thing that I talked about earlier, how the movements of the mouth of the characters is not in any sync with what they're saying. And as I am playing the game, this really doesn't bore me that much, but it's noticeable, especially when you're looking at these scenes for extended period of time, like when he talks with his uncle, and it's visible in the very beginning, so that's something to keep in mind. This is probably a minor thing, but it may be a bigger point of disappointment for different people, so just wanted to mention that. Also, in the scenes when he moves in between obstacles and stuff like that, he's also very fast, so personally I like that very much. Here you can see this is the like the meter that fills up when Jin gets noticed by the Mongols, so you have to keep that in mind. You can set up your camera to move faster, so you can just turn around the camera better and understand if the opponents are looking at you or not. However, the important thing to keep in mind, at least in this portion of the game, is that if you are seeing, you are basically that, like you're going to get back to the previous checkpoint. So please pay attention and try not to get seen by the opponents, because you're not going to engage in a combat. You're just, like you saw here, this message on the screen says that you are seen, and you have to turn to the last checkpoint. Fortunately, the loading time for this game, in this part at least, is very fast, or you're not going to be stuck on loading screens for too long, compared to another game that I'm playing recently that have nothing to do with Ghost of Tsushima. It's Sort Out Online Alicization Licorice. In that game, the loading times are atrocious. So here you can see how Jin is collecting some materials, and this happens very fast. Yeah, like you don't need to be super close to the item that you need to take. You can just run and press the R2 buttons or mash the buttons, and he's going to take whatever he needs, even if he's not in direct proximity towards the collectible item. Now here Jin is already very close to collecting back his sword, and here is something that I would like to note for people that are more interested in depth in Japanese culture and are trying to study Japanese, or are going to try and learn a couple of words from the game. When you play with the Japanese audio but with English subtitles, you're going to probably notice that they're translating the word tachi, which is one of the words for Japanese sword, as katana, but actually in the Japanese history the katana came in the real world of Japan much later. The action here revolves somewhere around 1260 and 74, excuse me, and the katana, as people know it today, came in the 15th century. So the the type of Nihonto or Japanese sword that they are using here is probably a little bit different than the traditional katana. So if you're trying to study Japanese, please keep that in mind. Now, after Jin collected his sword, here we have a like a recollection scene in which Jin trains as a young boy, and here's his uncle that he fought side by side on the beach with, and here we're gonna have you. If you have played games like this long enough, you're probably going to suspect correctly that here you're going to have some tutorial battle scenes. And this scene here kind of really reminds me of, I mentioned this in the last video, of a PS2 game called Kengo Master of Bushido. There you had the duels like this in a similar environment, although it didn't have like these red leaves around. It was more in a dojo, but the way they fight with the bokkens is very similar to Kengo Master Bushido in my opinion. Here you're going to learn that you have the light attack, the strong attack, and with the strong attack you can break the guard of the opponent. You can see his meter above, and after you break his guard, you'll be able to land in a couple of quick hits before the situation is in a reset position, and you have to like parry or evade before you find an opening for attack once again. So here in this introductory part of the game, you're going to see these things. So yeah, here it is. You have to break the defense of your uncle. And here you can see his meter, how he's building up, and when you see this like break animation, then you can attack with couple of hits. You have, much like Sekiro, if you press the triangle button, which is the strong attack, and hold it a little bit, you have this stabbing slash charging attack. But if you press the strong attack fast, you get this like guard breaking move, and after you break the opponent's guard, you can press the square button quickly a couple of times, and you're gonna land in a couple of hits that damage the opponent. That's the idea here. And next we are going to learn some defense, and here I'm going to show you, and probably you're going to see how the defense techniques work. You have to set up your camera in a way that you need to see your opponent. So far I don't think you can actually lock on to your opponent. I'll have to just test it out a little bit later. But the timings for the evasions or for the parries is not that different. Is not that difficult, excuse me. And here we are introduced to another part of the combat system, which is the health recovery. You get these yellow circles in the bottom left part of the screen, which allow you to heal yourself, and you recover them by doing different techniques and by fighting opponents and stuff like that. So this doesn't exactly work like consumable items or like Estus flasks in the Souls games or something like that. So I think that that's pretty interesting. And now we have the part of the game which shows us how to defend against the spear attacks. So as you saw, there is this red light that is flashing. It was also shown in some of the previous to the official launch videos for the game. And if you evade with the right timing, which is not very hard to do, you're going to evade the attack and be able to counter attack with a couple of quick hits against the opponent, or jump or do something else. The movements of the character are very fast indeed, although he doesn't move in the correct direction easily. So you need to be able to like direct your movements better than it actually looks like that you have to. So please keep that in mind. Also, the other thing that I really, it's not that I disliked it, I think it's just a kind of like a something distinguishable that happens in Western type video games like this compared to the ones that come from Japan. If you're attacked from behind, you can still parry your attack without having to redirect your character. I still have to like pay a little bit more attention to this and see how it's going to play out in the later portions of the game, but so far, much like in many other games, the evasion systems in many other games, and most recently in The Last of Us 2, of course, if your back is turned against the opponent and you press the evasion in the correct time, you're going to still be able to evade, although your physical body basically moves inside the opponent's weapon and stuff like this. So that's a little bit of I don't know. I would say it's a disappointing point. I think it's something that really is presented only in these types of games that come out not from Japan but from other countries. This is not a weeaboo argument or something like that. I can show this in many other games, especially in The Last of Us 2. I'm mentioning that because it was the latest PS4 exclusive game. And now Jin already has his katana, and he's going to make short work of this Mongol warrior with the spear. As you saw, he pushed him away. This is on harder difficulty, the hardest difficulty, which is hard in this game. So although he pushed him away, Jin still had enough time to evade after this. So like you're probably going to see or feel some of these attack and defense kind of like a sword dance that was presented in games like Sekiro. There you probably know, if you have played the game, that there is this very unnatural for most of the Souls players dynamic in which although the opponent has missed an attack and he has an opening, he can still defend against an attack. So you need to create this situation in which you have to land in a couple of hits, but accept the fact that you're not going to do any stagger to the opponent, and then you have to defend. So here we have another battle with 3 different opponents, and here you can direct your attacks towards the next opponent. You can choose which opponent to attack next, but if you just mash towards the opponents, you can just finish them off very quickly. And the only thing you need to be careful about is to defend in the right time, but your physical body doesn't need to be facing the direction of the opponent's attack, as I mentioned earlier. Here you saw another successful parry into counterattack into a dead opponent. So I think by seeing a couple of fights like this, if you don't have the game yet, you can pretty much determine how hardcore or deep the combat system is. So you can judge whether or not you like a game that has this particular system. For me personally, I see Ghost of Tsushima as a package with different elements. I like the setting a lot. The thing that I like about the game the most, however, is that they have set up the historical battles in the Genko period, the Mongol invasion of Japan, which, like I said in my previous video, haven't been done in a video game to my knowledge so far. So I really like that fact, and I really like the game also, although I don't think it's perfect. So I hope you guys liked my second video. It was a lot longer than the first one, and I hope you got a better understanding of what this game is all about. I'm going to just show direct gameplay with commentary in my next videos, which will probably be just a highlights from my stream, so stay tuned for that. If you have anything in particular that you want to know about the game, please let me know down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you like these videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Jin, ついてまいれ。大勢の仲間が。この命に変えても前進せねばなるまいぞ。ご決心を、志村殿。